I'm a little concerned because there is this word that you are lesbian and you are in this closet. Why is that the case?
Well, what?
All right, guys, so we got to talk about Democrats complaining about problems they create, specifically when they have to share in those problems, when they have to feel the consequences of those problems that they create. All of a sudden, it's an issue that must be addressed, right? And that is what's happening here with DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, who claims that illegal immigrants are crowding DC homeless shelters because states like Texas and Arizona are shipping illegal immigrants straight to Washington, D.C. And the reason why they're doing that is because they are protesting against the Biden administration and their soft on-border policies that have led to an unprecedented amount of illegals crossing the border. And the states that are suffering from that the most are the border states like Texas and Arizona that only can do so much about the border because the border is the federal government's problem, right? That's the reality of the situation. It's the federal government's problem, okay? So there's only so much they can really do. And the Biden administration having their soft on border policies, that is disproportionately affecting those border states and the people that live into those states who don't want illegals coming into their communities for various reasons. And it really has become a national security issue at this point. Again, not just for those border communities, but for the country as a whole. Now, the mayor of DC does not seem to like this policy very much of these red states, these border states shipping their illegals to Washington, D.C., as she did this interview on Face the Nation in which she openly complained about this, claiming that the illegals were being tricked into getting on buses to go to Washington, D.C. Take a look.
The Washington Post reported last week that homeless shelters in D.C. were filling up and groups were getting overwhelmed by these buses that the governors of Texas and Arizona are sending here full of migrants. How significant is this influx? How many people?
Well, this is a very significant issue. We have for sure called on the federal government to work across state lines to prevent people from really being tricked into getting on buses. We think they're largely asylum seekers who are going to final destinations that are not Washington, D.C. I worked with the White House to make sure that FEMA provided a grant to a local organization that is providing services to folks. But I fear that they're being tricked into nationwide bus trips when their final destinations are places all over the United States of America.
So it's not just local taxpayers picking up the tab. You're saying the federal government is helping.
Well, local taxpayers are not picking up the tab and should not pick up the tab. And we really need a coordinated federal response. We know that it's done for refugees who come to the states from all points of the world, and the same has to be done in this situation.
Yeah, so I found that interview to be absolutely incredible, okay? Because ain't it funny how when the Democrats suffer from problems, right, the ramifications of the policies that they push, all of a sudden, you know what, we got a problem with this, right? This is an issue, we got to do something about it. However, it's expected that red states and border states, y'all just got to deal with it, right? You just got to deal with it. She says that local taxpayers in Washington, D.C. Should not and will not pick up the tab. And I'm like, no, they are picking up the tab because everybody pays into the federal government, right? And you are using federal tax dollars to help out these illegal immigrants, which means that you're using money from the residents in D.C., right? Everybody across the country pays taxes for this issue. When you allow these illegals into this country and then we have to use services, you know, like busing these illegals to get abortions, right, which allegedly is what the Biden administration is doing, yeah, everybody has to pick up that tab. And ain't it funny how she doesn't complain about those policies, the policies that the Biden administration are pushing to try to make the illegals' lives easier here and to provide them with services, use taxpayer dollars when they come here, right? Because if anybody's being tricked, it is the illegal immigrants that have been baited into coming across the border illegally and to being smuggled into the country illegally by the Biden administration, right? If anybody's doing the tricking, it's them, right? It's the Biden administration. So you need to air your concerns with the cause of the problem. You need to go to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and say, why do you keep letting these illegals come into this country? I mean, we had 200,000 border crossings just last month. We've had a record number of border crossings under the Biden administration. You need to be taking up your issues with them. They're the cause of the problem. You can't blame these governors of these red states for saying, you know what, there's only so much we can do about this border. We want it closed. However, the Biden administration won't do it. Let's ship the illegals to the place that is allowing them to come into this country, right? That apparently wants the illegals, right? Y'all want the illegals so bad, right? When they're in red states, right? But not when they're in blue states. When they're in blue states, they're kind of a strain on the system. We don't want taxpayers to be picking up the bill for this, okay? Again, it's funny how that works. But when they're in red states, though, again, it's just expected that you house them and you take care of them, or else you're a bigot, right? You're a bigot. You're racist. Again, ain't it funny how that works? These Democrats always reveal themselves to be who they actually are when they have to face the negative consequences of their policies. When their policies have negative consequences on red states, though, they don't have anything to say. Crickets, right? Again, if you complain about it, you're racist, okay? Again, I find that to be incredible. So the next story I want to talk about that I found to be absolutely hilarious is Muriel Bowser, who is in bed with LGBTQ. And for whatever reason, there's talks in the LGBTQ community and out in Washington, D.C. About Muriel Bowser and her sexuality, right? People are wondering if she is straight or if she's lesbian, because word on the street is she's a lesbian. So she was actually confronted about her sexuality during one of these events, and I found her response to be absolutely hilarious. Take a look.
Yesterday hit social media, and interest grew to the point where the mayor felt compelled to address it. So she called 7 News DC bureau chief Sam Ford to talk about it.
I have been very proud to be a straight ally of the LGBTQ community. Yesterday was just another extension of my record.
Mayor Muriel Bowser today talking about her opening of a homeless shelter yesterday, specifically for LGBTQ in Southeast, cutting the ribbon. But during questions, Amar Khan of Pakistani descent, who described himself as gay, asked this question.
Mayor, I'm a little concerned because there is this word that you are lesbian and you are in this closet. Why is that the case?
Well, what? Well, I'm not in the closet.
This morning, she was at a Democratic Party event at the MLK Library, and her office invited reporters to talk about what happened.
The question is, I guess, are you straight? And the answer is...
I am, and a proud ally of the community. But is that a question that we should be going around in a city like ours that is affirming and welcoming? Shouldn't we be focused on the issues that are affecting our LGBT community? And I'm proud to do that.
We asked longtime D.C. gay activist Rick Rosendahl his reaction.
What I look for in a leader here is not their orientation, but their respect, their allyship.
Sadly, I've been asked a lot of inappropriate questions, so I'm a little desensitized to it, to be honest with you. But the reaction of my whole team and people around the community were mad. They were blood mad about it. But they thought that it was the perfect response to an inappropriate question.
For the mayor and her staff, the question was whether to address it or ignore it. Obviously, they decided to address it. Reporting from Northwest Washington, Sam Ford, 7 News.
And one more note here, Sam spoke on the phone to the man who asked the mayor that question, and he told Sam that many of his friends are also angry with him for asking it.
Guys, ain't it hilarious how Democrats freak out when they get a taste of their own medicine? Okay, they get annoyed, they get mad. They say it's inappropriate to ask adults about their sexuality and to have those conversations with adults, even at an LGBTQ event, right? Don't ask me if I'm lesbian or straight or whatever. Don't ask me about my sexuality. But this same party is totally fine with teachers asking kids about their sexuality and having conversations about whether or not kids are lesbian, straight, non-binary, trans, whatever, right? They're totally fine with that. And if you're opposed to that, then you're a bigot. Right? If you oppose those conversations, you're a bigot. Talking to children about that. But Muriel Bowser, who's an adult, when she gets asked about that, she's like, oh, no, that's not appropriate. That's not an appropriate conversation. It's not an appropriate question, right? Which, makes me think that it's a good idea, right, to protest against the Democrats and their push to indoctrinate children into gender and sexual ideologies. We should just start asking them about their sexuality, right? Hey, are you straight? Are you lesbian? Are you non-binary? Right? Are you trans? Okay, start asking them those questions and then see what answer they give you, right? We already had a hint. They're going to be upset about it, right? They're going to say, oh, no, that's inappropriate. But again, these same people will turn around and say, well, it's appropriate for teachers to be having those conversations with kindergartners, right? It's appropriate for them to have those conversations with kindergartners, but it's not appropriate to have those conversations with adults. It's absolutely incredible, the hypocrisy of the Democrat Party when it comes to some of these issues, okay? We love illegal immigration except when the illegals are being bused to Washington, D.C., right? When they're being bused to blue cities and liberal states, I don't necessarily know how much I like this. I'm not necessarily sure if this is fair. We shouldn't be picking up the dime for this, right? But when they're in red states, though, oh, no, you're a bigot. If you're opposed to them being there, right, you're a bigot, okay? Oh, I don't necessarily like being questioned and having conversations about my sexuality, right? But, it's totally fine to ask kindergartners about their sexuality. And if you're opposed to that, then you're a bigot, right? Again, it's funny how that works. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.